Hello and a warm welcome to all attendees joining today's webinar, Successful to Oracle ADF. Successful to Oracle ADF is it's the first session of a new series of PITSS Oracle ADF webinars aimed to give a deeper insight into ADF and showing how a successful transition from FORMS to ADF can be realized. So the focus today is to provide a general view of the whole migration process and the PITSS Oracle ADF Roadmap. My name is Sascha Sander, and it's a pleasure for me to moderate and take you through a quick tour through today's session. The main session will be driven by Patrick Walter, Consulting Manager at PITSS and a seasoned Oracle expert. Hi Patrick, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well. Perfect. Hello also from my side.
That's great that you're with us. Let's have a quick view on the agenda for today's webinar. First of all, I'd like to take a chance for a quick introduction and update about PITSS and PITSCon product and solution stack. Then Patrick will share our experience from Oracle ADF development and Oracle Forms to Oracle ADF migration projects, and answer some questions like how to migrate Oracle Forms applications to the proper Oracle ADF architecture, including the requested user interface while guaranteeing the quality at the same time. After Patrick's session, we will have a quick summary and introduce our offers all around ADF based on PITSS' dedicated approach. Well, finally, of course, we will have the opportunity to discuss all of your questions in a separate Q&A session. And therefore, some technical information right at the beginning, like always, as follows. So to minimize sound problems, all attendees' mics are set on mute during the presentation. But of course, you will have the possibility to ask your questions by chat to any dedicated topics coming up during the presentation, and therefore, please use the featured chat questions at the GoToMeeting application found in the right bar of these apps. So please feel free to log in all your questions during the presentation to be discussed and answered in the separate Q&A session. There's some few words about PITSS and PITSCon. So PITSCon and PITSS has been around since 1999. As a leading provider of tools for Oracle Forms, we work successfully with hundreds of companies internationally, performing forms modernization, analysis, and ongoing development based on our solution PITSCon, based on namely 4 business divisions, like there are software, solutions, services, and trainings. Based on our software and solutions, we offer all related services for a successful project, starting from project management to programming. In the training area, we guarantee a fast knowledge transfer based on training and workshops for related products and solutions, all supported by a highly skilled team of Oracle professionals. So today, we will concentrate on the PITSCon regarding the solution Forms to ADF. Talking about Oracle know-how, as a long-standing Oracle partner, we are a preferred migration partner, doing even better testing for new Forms versions. So that enables us to include in PITSCon product very fast any functionality required by new Forms versions or releases provided by Oracle. So we are very, very busy in the Forms community globally, joining directly or together with partners a lot of events, running a lot of presentations. So whenever you have the chance to join an event like that, take a look for PITSS. We would be happy to welcome you at one of our stands. Well, PITSS is working globally directly from our headquarters in Germany with 3 locations, targeting the UK market out of Milton Keynes, for Americas with a daughter company PITSS LLC out of Troy, Michigan. Moreover, we collaborate in various regions with dedicated and certified PITSS partners, providing our solution and expert services in their countries, backed by PITSS directly. Well, our product is not just working on PowerPoint, but we already have many very happy customers around the globe, be it in Europe, in Middle East, North Africa, Asia Pacific, or in the Americas. So if you are particularly interested in one of the above, for a lot of customers on these slides, we have success stories in place. All of these companies have one thing in common. They are all using homemade Oracle Forms applications or even provide forms-based applications as ISV partners. So they successfully use PITSS, whether for modernization, tool-based support, or for their ongoing development, analysis, and evolvement of forms. So you see, you're in very good company using forms. So before heading forward to Patrick and his session today, let's have a quick overview on our core product. Quick view on our flagship product, PITSS. So depending on customers' premises, our product, PITSS, is not only a one-time disposable product, but a short and long-term and multifunctional tool to reduce costs and improve development processes and further application maintenance. So therefore, our product PITSS offers a huge stack of functionality, and it's known as an innovative product for analyzing, for maintaining Oracle Forms, or even supporting the evolvement of these applications to the next level beyond 11G, according to the Oracle technology stack, including the modernization to Apex or ADF. The PITSS technology base that you see here in the middle, the red dot here in the middle, is a foundation for efficient and effective application management in every transition project, whether modernization within Forms or modernization beyond Forms, like a migration or transition to ADF. So the core of the PITSS technology base, it's a centralized repository built on an Oracle database. So this repository collects, it stores, it retrieves all details about Forms applications, along with analyzes result code changes, project documentation capabilities, even for huge and complex applications. Around this repository, you see here, and based on the information collected, we execute programs there like maintenance development, like a visual design, like application analysis, like an application engineering, taking care on the business logic, moving or transferring business logic in the preparation process of modernization down to database, or of course our modernization stack, including Apex modernization, Forms modernization, or transition, today's session, migration to ADF. To finalize here this functionality, we have huge source code analytics capabilities that supports our customers in analyzing their existing application regarding a status quo, quality measurement, and of course effort estimation and time estimation to prepare a transition, a proper transition from Forms to ADF. Okay, so far a quick view on the PITSS product stack, but now we will head forward with Patrick's session. And just before handing over to Patrick, I have prepared a quick poll. It's important for us at least to have an overview on the requirement on your status quo that we are talking with. Probably if you can answer this quick poll, talking about what version you currently use. Everyone would be happy if you can give us a quick feedback on that. Just click on it, and I let this poll open for a few seconds so that we can move on forward very quickly. So another 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just one more feedback. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And just a follow-up, Paul. So how many forms modules do you have in your application? It's an indicator for us talking about the complexity, especially when we talk about the transition from forms to ADF. So give us a quick feedback, highly appreciate it, so that we have at least a feeling that we can concentrate on, in general, what we offer in the market, what would be, how to support you in the best way. So another 5 seconds, and we can close this poll again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and thank you very much for your feedback. Okay, let's hand over and move forward with Patrick's session, talking about forms and ADF modernization. Okay, Patrick, I will hand over in a few seconds to you. Let's check here.
Okay, thank you, Sasha.
Okay. You got it? You got it.
Got it. I'll now share my screen.
Okay,
you now should be able to see my first slide on the procedure. How do I fulfill the expectation of ADF in a forms migration process?
It works fine.
Thank you, Sasha.
Okay.
Let's start with the main target of today's presentation. The target is I want to go from my Oracle Forms legacy application that might have been developed 10 years, 15 years ago, and I do have a lot of source code in there and invested a lot of manpower into my application. Probably some man years are as an investment in the most forms applications that are right now out on the market. And my target is to get to ADF, and the big question comes, how do I do this? What is the process to do? In the past, we of PITSS, we established a process model. We faced a lot of challenges on the forms to ADF migration, and in the various projects, we figured out the best practice. What steps do I need to do to come from forms to ADF? And therefore, we figured out we need to separate the whole process into 3 phases. The first phase is the preparation. The second phase is the actual migration, and the third phase is the application fine-tuning, the finishing of my application. So, get a little bit more in detail of the different steps. I'll give you first an overview about the whole process, and don't be scared. It looks it looks a lot and complex, but I will get first in detail in the following slides what the processes are, or what the steps of the process are, and also in the next webinars we will take a look at the different phases and the steps of it in more detail. So this should be only an overview about the overall process, and we will share in this presentation, but also in later webinars, a more detailed look into the different steps. So this is the start of the series. How do I get from forms to ADF? And later you will, in later webinars, you will get more detailed information. Let's start with the introduction of ADF. A lot of forms developers are forms developers for a couple years, and they are very used to that interface. But the question for us was always, how do I get my forms developers to ADF developers? They need to change technology. They need to know the new technology, the new development style. And ADF, you can give a ADF training, and Oracle offers ADF trainings, PITSS offers Oracle ADF trainings, but we figured out if you had ADF training for 5 days or 10 days or 15 days, you're still not ready to actually migrate your application. You know how to develop a Summit application, but you don't know what really is challenging in your application. For that reason, we created the functionality user stories, and we incorporated this into our tool PITSCon, where we can record the user stories. And based on a user story that we recorded, or that you recorded, we decide to actually use this user story as a first step to get you up to speed in ADF. So after a training, we mentor you, and we go together with you through the user stories, and we do a coaching, a mentoring right next to it. And parallel to this, We also talk about architecture. We talk about central cross-functionality that should help you to actually get settled in what ADF is and help you to have the basic functionality ready before you actually start the full migration. A second phase, or a parallel phase in phase one, would be the preparation of your forms. We need to analyze the forms, what's in there. We need to analyze the complexity of the forms, but also we do have a cleaning process that removes unused objects, that removes redundant objects, and also objects that are not necessary in ADF. And in the next step, in an optional step, would be the transformation of the business logic to the database. So the business logic that you invested in PL SQL business logic in your forms, and an optional step would be to preserve this business logic by extracting the business logic out of the forms and move it to the database. This enables you then, when you upgrade to Forms 11G, as also an optional step, by adopting web services to actually be in a service-oriented architecture. This also enables you, parallel to run to your Forms application, also the web services enable you to access, for example, the business logic via web service by a mobile application that you might want to incorporate also into your new architecture. The second phase is then the migration and integration. So of the architecture that we figured out together with you in the coaching phase that would be best for you, and the central cross-functionality that we established together with you, we create an ADF architecture, and we also can make, based on that, an estimation what the overall process will cost you. And I will show later how this estimation is done and supported by PITSS, our tool. And then comes the ADF migration. That is the part where the PITSS generator actually generates the ADF artifacts that are a JDeveloper project that you then can import into JDeveloper and do there the fine-tuning. The application fine-tuning is also separated in several steps. It's the model layer fine-tuning. It's the user interface enhancement, also fine-tuning. It's taking care about the business logic and the redesign of the business logic, because Forms has a procedural programming language, and ADF is Java, and it's therefore object-oriented. So there also needs to be a redesign on some cases so that you can make the most out of your ADF application. And of course, at the end, there's the integration and the test of your application. Parallel to this, PITSS offers a training and coaching and mentoring. We parallel also offer the quality assurance and the testing. So we, with PITSS, in the preparation phase, we can make sure that that the input of the generator is consistent, so the output would meet the needs of your architecture. PITSS also provides documentation what is migrated, and because all the steps you can do here can be redone. So for example, we migrate the first cluster to ADF. In that process of the first cluster, we learn what needs to be made better. Maybe there are changes to be done on the generator. So with this option to redo the whole process, we can put in the lessons we learned into the new generation of the next cluster. And with this, we can have several iterations and put all our lessons learned into the next cluster, so we get better and better with every project and with every part of each project. And also what PITSS offers is the option or a solution for the technology coexistence, so that you can run your Forms application and the new migrated partially migrated migration in ADF parallel. And we also have a solution for Forms and ADF communication that is seamless. Let's start with the first part, get ready for ADF. And get ready for ADF means this part down here, the phase 1A, the introduction into ADF. How do I get my developers ready for ADF, and also what can I do to get a quick start into ADF? The first question that always comes, where do I start with the proper knowledge? what kind of knowledge is required to develop ADF? What kind of Java skills do I need, or do I need a special ADF skills? Also, a question is, what is the know-how of my team? Do I have Java developers or only Forms developers? What skills set do I need, and how do I get my team to the right skills? Stan Westerly, who has a lot of videos and trainings online available, he actually, in Oracle ADF, he actually said that you don't need the skills of Shakespeare to write something, but everyone who writes needs to follow some rules of spelling and grammar, so everyone can be understood. And it's very similar to also as a programmer. You, as a Java programmer, need to know the Java rules. You need to know the syntax, and so you can write correct code. It's compilable and runnable. But not everyone who develops Java needs to know the full ability of what Java offers in interfaces, inheritance, and inner classes. So not everyone in your team needs to be an ADF guru, but for all subjects, there should be an expert on your team. And if you don't have that expert knowledge in your company, you should consider to take external support, have a consultant that is an expert. The different skills you need for your developers to start as an ADF developer, you need some basic Java skills. You need to have some basic ADF skills. So you need to have the training and the guidance that you are able to develop ADF. And also the expert, he should be an ADF expert. You should have one ADF expert that should know the system architecture and also should know the options that all options that Java offers. So the PITSS mentoring program that we have, and we call it SEME. SEME stands for Software Environment Mentor, that puts a lot of this together into one, not only tool set, but also about a set of conventions and help to get started, the startup, and a set of functions. So the conventions is about the development skill, development settings, naming conventions, and also this all supports your development team in the whole life cycle of the software. It also simplifies your development project because your resources all that resources you don't need to put into the setup of the environment, because we provide you with the setup of the starting environment and your development environment. The templates allow you a fast start in a proof of concept or a pilot application, and also it simplifies the coordination of the communication with the product owners during the range of the definition of the functions. What functions should be available, and PITSS offers a tool set that helps you to efficiently do ADF development with a high quality right up from the beginning. Let's come to the forms preparation phase, and that is a really important phase in here. So we come to the upper part of our forms preparation phase. It's the analysis, it's the cleaning, it's the business logic to the database. The main target of this phase is actually first to get a detailed report about the project duration, about the complexity of my application, about to have a basis for decisions so you can go on. It also should reduce the manual effort and put as much as possible to an automated process. It also should reduce the size of the application, so you don't need to deal around with dead code and unnecessary redundancy, so you don't have to do stuff more over and over again that is actually the same over several clusters. It's a fast and precise implementation, so we take the forms as a starting point for the actual ADF migration. We could say the form is a blueprint for your ADF. The form is your form is the specification for the ADF application. And so with the form, if the form is good prepared, we can make the most out of an automated or partially automated migration. And I'll explain this later in some slides. Let's start with the analysis. the analysis report is really important because you can't come to us and say, oh, I have 100 forms, what would that cost me? Because every form is different. So we have here an average application, and you see like the top form cost over 40 hours to migrate to ADF. But one of the less complex forms, it's only a couple of hours to migrate to ADF. So the complexity of the task differs from form to form, from program unit to program unit. And also, on the other hand, the project team skills different. So if you're new in ADF, it takes you way longer to migrate from forms to ADF than if you have an experienced consultant that does it now for years. So the factor there is also something you need to consider. Also, the PITSS analysis report incorporates the complexity. So what we do is we actually use industry standards to calculate the complexity of forms. It's not any algorithms we created and we thought this could be nice and fits. No, we use actually industry standard metrics that are established now for almost 40 years, and they were not replaced but used by various companies and universities to actually measure complexity of software and also development time. So for example, we use cyclomatic complexity, the health step volume, and the health step time. The health step time is the time that actually it will probably take you to redevelop this whole functionality. So for example, when you take this program unit you see here, it probably will take you around 13 minutes to actually redevelop it. And this information is calculated by the health step time. So if you want to take a closer look at all these metrics that we are using, there's a Wikipedia entrance, and it really describes very good the software metrics that are available on the market and that they are really highly used and established in the industry. Let's come to the next step after the analysis. When we know how complex my application is, where are my pitfalls might be, and so on, we come into the preparation phase of the forms. The first phase is actually cleaning. Drop everything that is not needed in ADF. One thing is PITSCon is able to identify similar or identical code. So you can combine this over the whole application and create a shared library then in ADF, so you don't need to rewrite the code in every single program unit. So you can actually reuse this functionality in one shared library. Also, drop unused code. Everything that is not used, you don't want to migrate. It just costs you time, and later it's not necessary. Also, the user stories can help there, because the user stories you record in runtime, so you might also discover, when you use the user stories, you might also discover some buttons that are never pressed in the application. So that can also help to reduce the overall complexity of your application. So the cleaning process is very essential to get a good understanding what the effort is. And actually, not all forms, products, or objects are necessary in ADF. So for example, the calendar or the editor can be removed, because every date field in ADF already comes with a calendar. So this is an ADF standard component, and the calendar you were able to use in forms was their own canvas with their own buttons and everything. And if you remove that, that also removes the overall effort, because you can use the standard components of ADF. An optional step is the business logic to database. Probably if you have more decades of man years invested in your forms application, we have a lot of lines of code in PL SQL. The only way to preserve this when you migrate to ADF is actually to locate this business logic in the database. And so doing this, ADF is able to execute stored procedures in the database. And with this, you can protect your investment you have done in PL SQL over the past years. This also helps you to reduce the overall complexity, because you don't need to rewrite this in Java. As a result of the preparation phase in a real-time project, we were able to actually reduce the complexity over the overall application from about one third of low, medium, and high complex modules to over 50% low complex modules. And it also reduced the complexity when we compared with a manual rewrite. The estimation of the industry standard metrics would have been almost 1,200 hours. So we could reduce it only with removing dead code, unused code, redundant objects, and also removing the moving the business logic to the database by almost one third. By then using the PITSS generator, it also can then remove the overall effort in this kind of application by almost 70%. So PITSS can help you to reduce the complexity of your application. And if you prepared your forms in the correct way, in a good way, and you took care about the forms before you start the migration, it can already save you a lot of time upfront. Let's talk a little bit real quick about RDF architecture. And we will have our own session for that because that is a very complex topic. But I want to put one idea in there that helps you to think about what you need to think about architecture. Proper guidelines in design, and one size doesn't fit all is a very good topic in here, because the architecture really depends on the various topics that you have, the complexity of the application, your team know-how, your strategy, your targets that you have in your company, and also the mobile, if you want to incorporate mobile or not. Grant Ronald last week at a convention said, if you don't have a mobile strategy, you don't have a strategy. So you have to consider all this in there, and this all influences your architectural decisions. And between monolithic architecture and architecture for everything as a template, there are a lot of points in between that could fit to your needs. So it's really important to consider everything in here, and we as PITSS can give you orientation on that to actually find the correct architecture or the best architecture that fits to your needs. And also we can then adjust our process and the generator to actually incorporate your needs into the overall picture. Also, what you should consider is if you like to have a big bang migration, so migrate all the forms before you go live, or you do as Gartner recommended in 2011, do a staged migration. Do it cluster by cluster. Start with the first cluster to migrate to forms, and then do it one by one and have a parallel application running. Here's an example on how you can do this. This is a customer application where we had to decide on a staged migration, and the customer said, this part is my first part I want to migrate. This part is 10% of the overall application, but it's used 90% of the times. This is the most forms that are used in the application. He said, I want to start with them. This gives my users the most value. We also said, okay, let's migrate the menu also to ADF, but keep other parts of the application in Apex. Here we could replace it with a partner net that was already written in .NET. Here was a mobile part he liked to have as a mobile app, and he kept at the beginning the core application in Forms. And so all this was very easy incorporated in a parallel part, but we had also to consider this in the architecture. And PITSS actually supports all different architectures you want. So here as an example for an ADF cylinder architecture, you can have the main login and then the different clusters, subclusters, and also then the shared libraries in here. So, and also the PITSS generator actually is adaptable for any architecture that we plan together with you, and then we can adjust the generator to the needs. Let's come to the last phase. It's the ADF fine-tuning. The fine-tuning phase, it sounds like a little bit funny for the most people when they really come to the place where they start the fine-tuning, because it's actually the most work. Because there you need to do the manual stuff in there, and a lot of part of the part before can be done automated or semi-automated, but here the fine-tuning phase is the part where you do the finishing, like where you do the finishing. Let's start what the fine-tuning phase should be. So if the first phases run successfully, there are any big surprises in there. There are no technical challenges because we did a good analysis, we did a good cleanup, and so we know exactly which are my complex forms, what it will take me, where are my pitfalls are, and I know exactly what to do. Also because we generated the most, the needed test time is reduced by in comparison with the most traditional developments because I know what I did, and I did it in a standard way. So PITSS generates in this phase all the sources that are needed to start a JDeveloper project and then do the manual approach there. So all the entity objects, your attributes, your bindings, master detail relations already generated out of the form. So the only thing you need to consider, or the only in quotes thing you need to consider, is to modernize the user interface and kind of take care about the business logic that was still in your forms that were not able to move to the database. To make sure the PITSS generator does not do a one-by-one translation of the forms to the user interface. Forms are very different, have a very different behavior from ADF. What PITSS does is it generates what makes sense to generate. At the end, you should have a pure source code, no prior code of PITSS, and you have native pure ADF code at the end. So you need to do some adjustments at the end, and maybe it depends on the complexity of the form, some bigger or some smaller adjustments, but at the end you have a very maintainable application that every ADF developer can understand and can maintain. Let's start with the migration. When you press the ADF migration assistant, it will generate out of the form a JDeveloper project. And what it also offers is a documentation, what it generated. So it tells you exactly how many objects were transformed and not transferred. And it also tells you which application module, so the ADF module, was created from a specific form module. So for example, from the block was then the entity object created. It also gives you a output of the manual adjustments. It's kind of a checklist of the objects you need to manual adjust. Some you need to finalize, some you only need to check, others you need to actually take care and develop. So for example, this when button press trigger, you need to put some logic behind it, and it was generated in the step Java. So all the objects are there, and PITSS tells you where you need to do the manual adjustments. In the next phase, the fine-tuning of the model layer, you don't need to do a lot of work. In the past, our generator is grew better and better that in the last project that we can generate 95% of the model layer in a correct way that you can use. In some cases, you need to do manual adjustments, especially if the PITSS repository was incomplete. Maybe not all database objects were there, so PITSS cannot identify the correct tables or the correct bindings. Also, if you use in forms dynamic constructs to fill your blocks and so on, so that's the part where you then have to do a manual adjustment to the model layer. But the most attributes, the most entities, attributes, bindings, and master detail relations and so on are generated for you and kept in a standard that it doesn't matter in which module you go later, you always have the same structure of your model view controller environment. Let's come to the user interface. User interface needs some more adjustment in your application because there is a fine-tuning of the navigation flow. With PITSS, we can generate actually the navigation in your forms application and figure out what the navigation flow might be. But there could also be a dynamic call of forms that you have a lot of options inside of the form to navigate with a go item, go block, and so on to navigate from one canvas to the other, and all of this can be done in a dynamic way. So the first step is to actually take care about the navigation flow or the task flow in the JDeveloper. With PITSCon, PITSCon also predefines a flow, but it needs to be checked and adjusted to the real business task flow. Also, what you can do is the UI looks very different. It might look very different from the form what we generate, because we don't want to place the object at exactly the same place than in forms, because your forms application is actually coordination based, and ADF application is frame based. So to place the form with a generator at the item of a form with a generator at the exact same place, we need to generate a lot of frames and subframes that would make the application unmaintainable at the end. So we generate a general UI that you can use, and then as a developer you can go in there and actually adjust it to a good look and feel. But we do generate all view objects, because we know a field that you have to enter in forms, you also need to enter it, also need to have the same field in the ADF application. So this is all generated, and you just with drag and drop have it to put it at the right position in your UI component. And the last step is, of course, when you go to ADF, you have a big variety of new modern web components that you can use. So one customer, for example, wanted to have a slider bar for pictures, so he can see if there are more pictures in there with one glance and don't need to press the button to get to the next picture. Or you can incorporate Google Maps and so on. So there are a lot of new graphic tools and so on that you can actually use in ADF that comes out of the box. And you might want to give this as an additional feature for your end users. Here are some examples of UI shells that you could use. So Oracle Fusion applications all look the same, and so Oracle created a template in ADF that actually is for all Fusion applications exactly the same, and they use it in eBusiness Suite. They use it for all the other applications in there. They have, and so with PITSCon we're also able to create a template for you and actually generate this UI template into every cluster that you have, so that your UI looks always different, that you have different areas that you can use. Another example for a UI shell could be something like this. In Oracle Forms, this was a forms tree, and this forms tree is now changed to a decision tree that looks way nicer than the standard forms tree. And depending on the leaf you select here, the content on the right side changes. And this is all new components that were not available in Forms, and now you can take advantage of the new features in ADF. At the end, I also want to show you an example how the UI from PITSCon can look like if your form is good prepared, and this is the output of the generator before we can adjust the UI. So this is a demo form that we use for a lot of purposes, not only for ADF migration, and this has a master detail relation, and when we put it through our generator after the preparation phase, we already can see that all the top pages are generated. We can see here is the master block displayed. The items are a little bit in a different order and not aligned correct, but this can be handled afterwards. You see here is the detail relation, and also the right adjustments of the relation is already created. Also the new features of, for example, calendar. This is a date field, so the calendar objects are already generated automatically by ADF, and also the block navigation is already automatically created. So this is the output, and then based on this you can do your manual adjustment so it looks good to your needs. Let's recap the target and the process that we have as an end. So your forms application needs to go to ADF. We as PITSS created this process model, and let's start this really quick just to recap. And you could think about it as building a house. When you build a house, you not only buy a toolbox with the correct tools and then think you can build the house by automatically. So what you need is, first step, when you build the house, you need to train yourself, to educate yourself, to gain the knowledge how to build the house. You need to create an architecture so your house will be stable. You need to prepare the wood so you can put it together in the correct form. And at the end, when the main structure of the house is done, you need to finish the house. And that is actually also in a house building comparison, it's the most work to get the paint on, to make the nice finish at the kitchen counter, and so on. Everything you have is in there. And the same you need to do when you go from forms to ADF. Train yourself, get the right knowledge, get the right know-how with the right coaches, create the right architecture so you're based on a good foundation, prepare your forms as a blueprint so the generator actually will have a good output, and then do the fine-tuning phase in a correct way. And parallel, get support on coaching, on quality assurance, on documentation, and so on. So with this, I'm done with my presentation, and I thank you for your attendance, and I will pass back to Sasha.
Yeah, please do that. Okay. Thanks, Patrick. I like your sample mentioned with the house building. So it's important to have a stable house and a pretty house and a villa. And yeah, it's a very good example. I'm pretty confident that our attendees realized the potential benefits for the project requirements as well. So, well, at this point, let us move forward with a quick summary of our proven approach and what we could offer to you in the first successful step to realize these requirements. Well, I think you are aware that the migration process is not a push on the button, but moreover requires proper analysis, application, preparation, possible, depending on individual requirements. So, in fact, we can analyze, we can perform the migration together with you, we can help you, we can check if there are any efforts, pitfalls inside your application. We support you during a whole project based on our expert services and with our consulting. So it's our daily business, and we would like to share our expertise with you, with your team. And finally, well, it's all about shortened projects. Migrate safe, taking into account cost and time, being effective so that you can move forward with your core business successfully. Well, this is our goal, and in general, let's have a look here. Sorry, I've just have one thing here I would like to move forward with. Is this one. The slide here is when we shorten projects. We have offers all around ADF. So we have special offers depending and related to our process, of course, that Patrick described and mentioned before. So there could be several steps depending on your individual requirements and status. So there is an orientation phases depending on what stage you are. We could start, for example, with a forms to ADF presentation, could be done on site or via web session that provides an overview on how to migrate and what would be the way from forms to ADF with PITSS and in general the migration process. And another part of the orientation phases could be when you ask your question, is ADF correct or right for me? We could set this up in a kind of expert workshop that could be and should be a foundation for a future-oriented decision that provides an overview on risk and potential. Finally, supports you in a decision if you are at this stage ADF yes or no for your application, provides you with documentation and a proper checklist. Or if you are already here in this phase, means that you would like to move forward with a dedicated assessment, with an analysis based on your individual application. Of course, we have this offer that we do this analysis in a detailed way of all your processes, mandatory for a proper transition or migration to ADF. There is included an effort estimation for the total migration of your FORMS application. There will be a review and preparation of the results, of course, and that should be the basis for a dedicated and proper project planning. So the result of this assessment should be really an overview that you see what means ADF for you, for your application, for individual requirements. So after the orientation, a dedicated assessment, or moving forward here with a proof of concept, with a POC on the migration process. It's a kind of workshop that we offer here. A little bit, of course, a little bit more than a pure workshop. Should point out your successful path to ADF. Please always have in mind that it is really individual, tailored to your application requirements, that we do in system analysis here, that we can reduce or exemplary reduction of a complexity of your application. We can do there an exemplary implementation of all migration steps, an evaluation of project scenarios, of course, thinking and discussing about the potential target architecture, cost estimation, of course, included in this proof of concept, so that you have a really basis whether to move forward here already in the migration of a pilot migration, where we define a joint cluster, so that you have a really pilot cluster, full functional ADF migration, already a preparation of rollout, so that what Patrick mentioned and pointed out in his presentation, a clustering of an application is possible, and we start with an initial cluster in a really transition in a kind of migration or pilot migration. And of course, included there will be a training and coaching. So this is a really dedicated, let's say, also a blueprint following our process. And of course, depending on your level, on your individual level, you can start probably right here from the beginning or already with the assessment. So please come back to us if you have there any questions. We would be happy to support you and to go in discussion with you. And regarding discussion, of course, I would like to encourage you here at this point to ask your question in the chat or question application. We would be happy to answer all of your questions that might come up during the presentation, or from Patrick or myself. Please ask your question, and before heading forward, of course, I would like to point out our general professional service offering that we have all around ADF related to the different steps. We support you in all middleware infrastructure consulting, FORMS ADF or ADF mobile experience. We would be happy if you would have any questions there. I would come back to you, of course, with trainings in ADF and WebLogic, all around Oracle technology, your processes. So you're not alone. We can support you with a lot of expertise with our team. And well, I would like to open the Q&A session, but just before my final questions to you, if you consider a modernization project, give us a feeling in this quick poll there, or if you're just in the stage of consideration, thinking about probably in short term or even in a little bit longer term, this would help us at least to get a feeling as well. So just open another 5 seconds. Appreciate your feedback. 5, 4, 3, 1, and 2, and thank you very much for your feedback. This is great. Okay, thank you. Yes, I would like to open the Q&A session if there are any questions that you would like to get answered here right now.
Okay, I do see the first question.
Okay.
The question is, do we have to go to 11G before ADF conversion?
Yeah.
If you don't want to have a staged migration, if you want to do the big bang migration, let's say like this, at that point you don't need to go to 11G. And really at that point where you want to not migrate everything in one step, but do it in several steps, it really makes sense to actually migrate to 11G before. Also with PITSS and PITSS our tool is actually also a migration tool or upgrade tool for forms. With this, we can do it very easy to upgrade to 11G before you go to ADF in some short steps. And we do actually have customers that use our tool to upgrade just in a couple of days. So we're not talking about months. We are really talking about days to actually upgrade to 11G. But if you're not considering to have a parallel of a running of the forms application and the ADF application, you don't need to upgrade to 11G first. But if you want to have the advantage of the full Fusion middleware stack, then you need to upgrade to 11G first.
Okay. So I have a question here. Can you forward the presentation? Or just for your information, the presentation or the webinar was recorded, so it will be available via download shortly after the session. So you can download it, of course, from our website, and it will be available so that you can see everything that we discussed here. But you will get a message when it will be available, of course. Okay.
Okay. So the next question is, do you recommend other development platforms besides ADF? So that is for us a little bit hard to answer because we are a dedicated Oracle partner. So other development platforms that are not by Oracle means we don't support it in this way. So we dedicate it to ADF, and we think it's a really great framework. There are other platforms out there, and we also support you on the way, especially when you go to the when you think about the forms preparation phase. You can always use PITSS to actually clean up your forms, to remove dead code, combine redundant objects, and also move the business logic to the database. We don't have a migration path to native Java, or we don't have a migration path to .NET or any other development framework other than the ones from Oracle. We also support for less complex applications Apex in a part, but we only, if you have a complex or medium-sized complex application, we do not recommend this to migrate because Apex has its limits on complexity. So ADF is for us the right decision, and it's a great framework because Oracle owns Java, and so ADF is the Java framework of Oracle.
Okay. So there's another dropping in. So can we run Oracle reports from ADF application? I think you see it, Patrick.
Yes, I see it. Yes, you can. So there's a way that you can call Oracle reports from ADF applications in various projects. We established a way. There's no standard way, automatic in ADF, but it's possible to call Oracle reports. One thing you should take in consideration is that Oracle announced that the next version, probably 12c, will be the last version of Oracle reports. After that, the BI Publisher is the strategic reporting tool that also Oracle Forms will use in the future. So when you migrate your application from Forms to ADF, you might also consider to think about migrating your reports to, for example, to BI Publisher.
Okay. Okay, so what are the other technologies, or what are the other technologies than Java? I think this was a question regarding if we support other technologies than
okay,
ADF.
the technologies that we support is Forms, it's ADF, and it's Apex. There are .NET out there with C# as a programming language. But you need to take in consideration that ADF and Java, or ADF, is the way how you develop is similar to Forms. When you go to .NET, the development is farther away from the logical forms for the logical forms developer. But there are a ton of other technologies out there, and you actually need to analyze what fits best to your kind of the application. Think about, you have an Oracle database. If you don't want to replace the Oracle database, probably an Oracle development framework would be the best choice to consume these data and manipulate data.
Okay, and then I think this is a great question that might follow on this. What is better, ADF or Apex? Well, good question.
Yeah, it's a good question, but it really depends on the application you're using. We figured out that Apex has its limits on complexity. When you only display data from tables and need to enter data, Apex is very good. You can do this very fast. You can create a reporting application very fast, very easy. When you start to have a lot of validation, a lot of business logic in there, especially on a lot of cases, you can't use standard Apex functionality anymore. You need to use JavaScript. This is really hard to develop. Also, if the application in Apex, for example, gets very big, then you have to, it gets hard to maintain. And this is different in ADF. With ADF, it's designed for big, complex applications. So, of course, the development takes a little bit more time for simple tasks than in Apex. But as soon as you need some out-of-the-box functionality, because ADF is based on Java, you get a lot of functionality that is already on the market, that is already incorporated in ADF, but also some Java developers also created some plugins that you can use.
Okay, so I see time is running. Well, for any questions left, or if they are coming, would I take another final one? Okay, so for any questions left, please come back directly to us. You can find us globally, well, in Germany or international, at sales@pitts.com or partners@pitts.com in UK. Just come back to us at sales.uk@pitts.com, or of course in Americas, come back to us. We would be happy to support you at pitsamerica@pitts.com. I would like to point out some sessions that we have here that Patrick mentioned already with our session. Well, one is where we currently are at the PITSS Kaleidoscope. Joining there, we present their Oracle Forms modernization. We have a booth there. It's up to tomorrow, so if you have the chance, Would be happy to meet you there. And well, the sessions that will follow on July 15th, building up on this session, analyze your current Oracle Forms system and situation. Then after the summer break in September, prepare your Oracle Forms for ADF. Also again in September, Oracle Forms ADF integration. And in October, agile concepts in migration to Oracle ADF. Would be happy to meet you there again. You can register right now. And well, so far from our side, the question that will come in will be answered, of course. Don't worry, you will get your answers in short time. So at this time, let me thank you. Patrick, thanks for your great session today. For all folks out there, let me thank you for your time. We are looking forward to meeting you again. Have a great day. Have a great evening wherever you are. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you also from my side.